I'm really thrilled to welcome all of you here in the Library of Foreign Literature. My name is Svetlana Gorokhova, and I've been working here for 32 years. I'm the International Operations Director in the Library of Foreign Literature. I wear one more hat. I'm also a co-chair person of the Russian American Library Dialogue, and this is exactly why we are here today. The dialogue is attended by two delegations from Russia and from the US. With all my heart, I'm welcoming the participants located here in Zoom right now, but I would like to welcome specifically those of you who have joined us on our Facebook page. And I think you've heard about this project of the Russian American Library Dialogue, but maybe not all of you are aware of what this project is all about. That's why we've prepared a really short video presentation so that you could look at the project and who is involved in it. Thank you very much, Polina Avtanomova, who has done a great job to be brief and informative. Let's look at it.
Спасибо огромное, Полина, спасибо нашему техническому сопровождению, да, что мы все-таки всех собрали вместе, вроде бы все протестировали. Хочу отдельно поговорить о технических моментах, которые действительно важны в работе, да, на площадке Zoom. Для тех, кто присутствует здесь, то есть для членов делегации, доступна функция синхронного перевода. Мы рассылали, да, инструкцию, как им пользоваться.
Write us in our chat room if you have any issues with the interpretation. We'll be able to provide assistance with you, but please choose the channel really convenient for you. Turn it on, and then you won't have to keep switching. If we have you have it in Russian, everything will be in Russian. For bilingual people, I would like you not to listen to use this function at all, but just enjoy all of the reports and all of the conversations in the original. If we are discussing documents like the list of participants and the program of our meeting, we'll be uploading them in our chat. You will be able to look at it. We only have 2.5 hours. we're very limited on time, and we have over 30 participants from 2 countries. We won't be able to introduce each one of them separately, but we have special bio files, and you could read those files, you know, if you could just open those files. For our Facebook audience, we will be uploading these documents in the comments. You get a chance to ask your questions in the comments. Using the live stream, we have specially trained people who are looking at your comments. If you have any time left after each section of the program, we'll try to respond to those questions. The essence of the project is the free sharing of ideas, and the dialogue itself will be between the participants. So if we do get a chance to answer your questions, we'll be really thrilled with that. But then we might have a separate meeting where you could join us online, and then the working groups will be able to respond to your questions. For the people who are on Zoom right now, if you want to say something, if you want to utter something, write it in the chat. Please ask for a floor. Don't raise your hand, because you will be put in a queue, in a line, and then we'll try to observe the queue. Well, you could ask all of the questions in your comments and in the chat. Our speakers, well, we don't really have formal speakers. We have discussion initiators in a way, but at the very beginning of every day, every meeting, we have special time earmarked for the introduction to the issue that we are about to discuss, and those chosen people are given 5 minutes. Initiators of discussion are only given 2 minutes, and we really what we ask you about is to initiate the discussion, tell a little bit about what's going on, but pose questions, and the discussion of those questions could help our library communities to discuss all of those issues. I would like to stop, because you know I've overstepped all of the limits already that I had for any introductions. I would like to say a few words about our agenda. We have 2 meetings, 2.5 hours each, today and tomorrow. We start at 5 o'clock Moscow time, and we go for 2.5 hours. It's very limited time. The first day we're going to discuss the libraries during the pandemic. You know, what was their response, what was going on in both countries with the library community. On the second day, we'll be talking a bit more about what kind of work has been done by the libraries, you know, to achieve the sustainable development goals set by the United Nations. There are some kind of cornerstones setting the general structure of social life, and specifically for libraries as well. Well, how did the pandemic change our work on achieving those sustainable development goals? What kind of impact has it had? In brief, that's what I was going to tell you. We have 3 blocks today. We'll be moderating today with Ellen Knudsen. But before we start our program, I would like to show you, Pauline, could you please show the map? This is what I've promised. The map showing the locations of all of the participants of our dialogue and their respective locations. Paulina, can you hear me? Can you hear me at all? Well, yeah, I can hear you. Please show the map. I want everyone to see that. So if you look at this map, we basically covered the entire Earth. At this point, some of the people using this Zoom platform, they're currently located in those locations. Try to figure out, try to understand that our operations and that our passions and our love for the job, we've basically embrace the entire earth, the entire humanity. So we are trying to work every day for the sake of our community. We don't need the map anymore because we start the official part. Within the 4 years of this dialogue, it has been expanding, it has been getting bigger. Things are getting more visible, including for our organizers, the Ministry of Culture of the Russian Federation. We're really happy that Olga Yarilova actually recorded the reading for us. Well, we could feel her her incessant attention to our job, and in her really busy time, she found some time to record that reading for us.
Уважаемые коллеги, дорогие друзья, от лица Министерства культуры приветствую всех вас на этом замечательном мероприятии. Сегодня мы даем старт очередному заседанию российско-американского библиотечного диалога. Эта встреча проводится уже в 4-й раз, и за эти годы ведущие специалисты российских и американских библиотек успели обсудить множество важных тем, от роли этих учреждений в современной общественной жизни до достижения целей устойчивого развития. Тема нынешнего диалога – деятельность библиотек во время глобальных катастроф. И она, конечно, особенно актуальна. В этом году в мире сложились непростые условия, и во всех странах библиотечная отрасль столкнулась с очень серьезными вызовами. Новая реальность сформировалась стремительно и потребовала столь же стремительных действий. Но даже из таких ситуаций можно извлекать пользу. Прекратив принимать посетителей непосредственно в своих помещениях, библиотеки продолжили обслуживание в дистанционном режиме через официальные сайты, аккаунты в социальных сетях, интернет-платформы. И мы увидели, насколько востребованными оказались возможности модельных библиотек, электронных ресурсов, национальной электронной библиотеки. Родились новые проекты и новые формы. По инициативе наших библиотек был запущен проект «В сказку из дома», благодаря которому за время периода самоизоляции более 50 тысяч ребят смогли погрузиться в волшебный мир детской литературы. Сегодня пришло время проанализировать произошедшее и обсудить дальнейшее взаимодействие. Очень важно, что именно Россия и США, в которых сохранились по-настоящему обширные библиотечные сети, создают пространство для профессионального диалога. Мы видим, какие серьезные результаты приносит наш диалог. Формируются новые партнерства и международные проекты, создаются совместные информационные ресурсы. На наш взгляд, именно таким и должно быть настоящее сотрудничество, действенным, взаимовыгодным и постоянно развивающимся. Несмотря на то, что нынешний форум проходит в непривычном онлайн-формате, я уверена, что вас ждут полезные дискуссии и новые идеи, которые можно будет применить в нашей работе уже в самом ближайшем будущем. Я желаю всем нам удачи и успехов.
Замечательно. Спасибо большое. Спасибо Министерству культуры, которое действительно очень оперативно ответило на наши просьбы. И вот в результате мы имеем такое прекрасное приветствие. Но я хочу сказать, что у диалога есть два основателя, есть два замечательных, отец и мать, я бы сказала, даже я не знаю, как нормально описать это, но два основателя. Вадим Валерьевич Дуда, председатель российско-американского диалога, и Нэнси Краник, председатель российско-американского библиотечного диалога. Вот сейчас я хочу предоставить слово Вадиму Валерьевичу, чтобы он тоже нас приветствовал, чтобы он сказал свои напутственные слова перед началом этой 4-й встречи российско-американского диалога. Вадим Валерьевич.
Добрый день, уважаемые друзья. Светлана, а я отец или мать?
Вы отец, и вы еще и генеральный директор Российской государственной библиотеки. Для тех, кто, может быть, не знает, лидер мнений, неутомимый труженик, умник и красавец.
Спасибо, Светлана.
Well, the library community is is getting more and more understanding when it comes to the dialogue and polylogue. I would like to make a remark about the map. And you didn't have Kazan where I am right now. It is in Kazan today, and we had the intergovernment board session between Russia and Kyrgyzstan in the field of libraries. We discussed the libraries a lot. We used to have a slogan at the IFLA, IFLA are us. This slogan is getting more and more important, more and more efficient in Novel, and maybe it is the pandemic that contributed to that, because we figured out how to see each other more often. Yesterday I was listening to Lotta's speech. Well, it was probably just a recording. It wasn't a live conversation. At least we see each other virtually, but more often. Let's take advantage of that. Let's do our best to ensure that our cooperation is not just more frequent, but let's be more pragmatic, and I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to launch some really important joint ventures in a way. I'm really happy that we're together right now. I'm happy that this Russian-American Library Dialogue does exist. I think that Ms. Yarilova did a great job when she said, but there are no more bigger global library networks than in America and in Russia, and we have to figure out the way to resolve our issues. About the pandemic, I would like to make a few comments about what is really important. That's true. I would like to reiterate what Ms. Yarilova already said. Some of our major products like NAM has been really successful. Our American friends might be interested to know that about a year ago that we had 2,000 or 3,000 hits to the portal of National Electronic Library, but in April and in May this year we had about 60 or 70,000 hits a day. It's a huge inflow, and it's not an accidental flow of readers. Those are the readers who need the access to our books. One more conclusion we could draw from the pandemic made by the Lenin Library: nothing could replace the actual physical bricks and mortar books, so to speak. We do realize that not everything is available on the internet. It's a myth that everything is available on the internet, and our paper books are really very important for the people. Well, we could use the service Scan on Demand. We were scanning fragments of books, ordered by our readers, and I'm pretty sure that this service could become the foundation for our books to be more globalized, and we tried to make access available from any library of the world. I would like to make sure that the huge number of books from foreign libraries could become available for the Russian readers. We have plenty of opportunities, plenty of chances. We have to work together to do a better job for our readers. Good luck to all of us. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vadim Valerievich. We're really happy that in spite of the fact that you're in Kazan, you were still able to join us. We couldn't do the meeting without your participation. Thank you so much. Right now, I would like to give the floor to Nancy Kranik, the co-chairperson of the Russian-American Library Dialogue.
My Russian grandmother would be very happy to hear that I am the mother of this event. So thank you. Good morning and good evening to all of my colleagues joining us today. At our meetings together in Urbana, Illinois, in the US a year ago, none of us could have foreseen the devastating health and economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic that have exposed and exacerbated stark inequalities and vulnerabilities in the United States and across the globe. As our lives have gone virtual, the gaps in access to the internet for us and our communities have left too many people behind. At the same time, we in the US have endured protests sparked by the tragic killing of George Floyd and others that have put the spotlight on America's long history of racial injustice. And now fires are burning millions of acres in the western part of our country, amplifying the immediacy of climate change. And our dear my co-leader Ellen Knudsen has been so immersed in all of these issues, we didn't have her spot on the map in the western US, but she has certainly endured more than most in all of these challenges. So during such an upheaval, when citizens are separated from each other and relationships are frayed, we must position ourselves to offer our communities the safe and brave spaces they need to come back together, and we can help them address their uncertain future. So our commitment, our library commitment to equity, justice, environmental preservation, and public participation reflected in the UN Sustainable Development Goals is more critical today than ever. We have the potential to respond to these crises constructively and to build a future that leaves no one behind. Building off a successful series of gatherings, including our last year's meeting in Urbana, Illinois, that when we focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we have a renewed opportunity this week to showcase local and national innovations, leadership, actions, and commitments to our communities from all parts of the library profession across the globe. Our efforts and leadership are crucial to a recovery that advances equity and sustainability, addressing the moment that we are in right now, as well as the possibilities for a renewed but different future going forward. The American delegation looks forward to the prospects of addressing these critical issues together with our Russian colleagues through the lens of our communities. At this incredibly difficult time, let's seize the opportunity to do everything we can to learn, to grow, and to imagine. This is our moment to not just reopen our buildings, but also to embrace a future where we make our communities whole again. Thank you so much for all the work you've put in to making this happen. I so look forward to our discussions in the next few days.
Thank you very much for these beautiful words that you've told us. I completely agree with you that it's not just the complicated nature of our situation at this point. We have great opportunities to revisit our work and find new venues for mutual cooperation. I would like to mention that from the very beginning of our dialogue, it has existed under the wing of two associations, the Russian Library Association and the American Library Association. And I would like to give the floor to respective presidents of those two associations, and to alternate to keep the queue, so to speak. We would like to give the floor to Mikhail Afanasyev, chairperson of the Russian Library Association, or Mr. Misha, please. Yeah. Hi to everyone. I am thrilled to see all of you again after the beautiful speech by Ellen. I will try to be brief, as she already explained the challenges that we've been facing. We live in a situation when everything is being done to prevent us from seeing each other, starting from the virus and all the way to those huge fires and other cataclysmic events. Everything was trying to prevent us from seeing each other. And I'm happy to see that despite all of that, our meeting has actually taken place. We would like to seize this opportunity and discuss the issues interesting for us. And I don't think that will be that within those few hours we'll be able to get a lot of new knowledge. But the more obstacles we have to overcome to see each other, the more effort we have to put into seeing each other, into talking to each other. We have to remind ourselves that we are the same community and utilize this opportunity of enjoying our conversation and obtaining some useful information. And I'm looking forward to other speakers. Mikhail, thank you very much. I couldn't help agreeing with you. We already discussed with our American colleagues that this morning they were really looking forward to being in Siberia. We were supposed to be all in Novosibirsk. It was really weird, for the Americans to be in Novosibirsk. But next year, Novosibirsk is waiting for us. Next year, not in Jerusalem, but we'll see each other in Novosibirsk, and we'll get together there. Thank you so much. And right now, if possible, turn your mic off. I would like to give the floor to the president of the American Library Association, Julia Jefferson, the junior.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon. I guess I am bringing greetings to you last. I'm bringing greetings from the American Library Association. One thing about speaking last in such an august body is that everything that I wanted to say actually has been said. But I do want to thank the organizers for bringing us together. Svetlana, Ellen, thank you so much. This word pivot we've been using seems to be the most used word of our current time. And when we are continuing a discussion of librarians from 2 countries, 2 continents, with 2 different languages, various time zones during a pandemic and everything else that Nancy had mentioned, and we're doing this in a virtual environment, the word pivot is absolutely appropriate. So I wanted to tell you that last year this time when we met on the beautiful campus of the University of Illinois, I was serving as ALA president-elect, and I so much enjoyed our time together. I can tell you that I was challenged and inspired by our colleagues in Russia, and I think that we'll hear some of the results from that meeting later on in our conversations. So I look forward to visiting Russia this year as ALA president because of that productive meeting in 2019. And I knew that the meeting in 2020 would exceed what we did in 2019. And of course, as it's been said, I never imagined that a year later we would be meeting online and instead of being in Russia. But I am pleased and thrilled to be able to see your faces and have this conversation and continue this dialogue today. And as it's been said, again, our world looks much different in 2020 than it did in 2019. And the landscape of how libraries provide services to their communities will forever be changed, but I believe strengthened. I look forward to the next 2 days of dialogue and discussion as together we will explore the possibilities of the impact libraries will have globally now and in the future. So again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thanks the both library associations for supporting this project. We completely agree with you. I think it's really important. And let's start our discussion, because we have plenty of participants, and everyone wants to listen to each other. The first session of our meeting is called the Libraries Serving Community, Lessons Learned from the Pandemic. We will be doing that with my friend, with my colleague, with my sister, with my library sister, Ellen Knudsen. Yeah, she's a person we've known each other for over 20 years, and I'm really thrilled that we're still working together and we're still doing joint projects. Dear Ellen,
I am so happy to be here, and it is always wonderful to be in a presence of such great people. I mean, I just love seeing all of our faces, even if we would be happier if we could also be embracing. And thank you to Svetlana for the lovely introduction, and of course to Mom and Dad, Vadim Duda and Nancy Kronik. If they're mom and dad, then we're the kids, the sisters, I suppose. It's all good. But I think a thing to take away from that is that we are family. You know, we're in this library family together, and the connections that we make are so important. And we've started these connections, as Svetlana said, in many ways, you know, more than 20 years ago, and they'll continue to grow and evolve, and we bring more people in, and it's just it's so wonderful. But as we have said, we're hoping that today, you know, really is a good dialogue. It will be maybe a little strange with doing it through Zoom. So as just a reminder, when if you want to get in the queue to say something, you know, type a little quick note in chat, so that Sveta and I can be moderating that well. But to kick us off, we have asked Loida and Albina to say a few words of overview of what has happened in the US and in Russia around the pandemic. We've asked them to have, you know, brief remarks, 5 minutes. We'll try and do try and keep the time as best as we can, and then we'll move on to the most engaging part of everybody talking with each other. So I'm not sure if who is going to go first, if we were doing it in the order on the agenda, which would be Loida, or if
Yes.
Loida. Okay, perfect. So I'll hand the floor to you, Loida. Thank you so much.
Hello, good day to everyone, wherever you are in the US, Russia, around the world. I'm going to share my screen, and this is going to be a little bit of rapid fire. But yes, to echo what was said before, the libraries have forever been changed by this pandemic. The programs and services will always be about people, but we need to be united to build essential services that we're going to help our societies after and during and after this deep pandemic. And so I want to share with you some notes from the ALA side. And this is to say that we were always open. The libraries were open online or in person in the buildings. Some buildings stayed open sometimes for everyone. The ALA developed a page with responses and information from all of our units. And ALA has, until very recently, had 11 different divisions. There are library associations on themselves. So I invite you to look at this. And the ALA board also looked at the area of xenophobia and racism because our Asian communities were attacked, including librarians, so they took action. I was part of the board then, so we took action. There were also some resources, and we, the ALA compiled them on a page, and libraries respond, and have to do with xenophobia and fake news related to the virus and Asian populations, so on. The ALA started using a hashtag, Library Strong, and this hashtag was started last year during my presidency to show what libraries were doing to help communities. And also, we mobilized library advocates to include libraries in federal efforts to provide budgets to cities and to the nation. And we were successful. Libraries did receive funding from those initial bills. The next one I want to share is that public libraries realized a survey, national survey. We can see the results on the page for time. I'm not going to read everything, but it was very comprehensive. Many libraries participated, and it gave us a first glimpse on how libraries were helping communities and the things they were addressing, like food insecurity, and also how they were being very careful in terms of planning reopening. Our President Jefferson had an idea to have a monthly forum to discuss matters related to the pandemic and librarianship and the association. And so we've been doing that since April. I was very happy to do one in, I would say since March, and then in April, I spoke about wellness, very important. And we also have a page that compiles all the different webinars under different topics like distance learning, copyright and legal matters, working from home, that the different library ALA units have developed, and they are mostly still available. I wanted to highlight resources from the academic and college research libraries because we might have a nice representation here. They also, as each one of the ALA units, developed a page, and it's very comprehensive, include self-care and how to work with the community. In this case, you know, the community are students and professors. And so I also wanted to highlight from our end and our region, a really good comprehensive survey of academic libraries that Lisa Hinchlife and a colleague realized. And it covers many areas, again, on how libraries, academic libraries, faced the different challenges. ALA has a unit called Choice, and they publish resources. They made available a number of those resources free on the website, including one on how to manage disasters and crises. I also wanted to highlight, we have some associations in the States that are affiliates to ALA. They are very important. They represent ethnic groups. And so here we have the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. They really produce a number of programs. I'm only highlighting one of them. The Asian Pacific American Library Associations also has some webinars having to do with supporting the Asian and Asia Pacific American communities. Reforma, the National Library Association, to promote libraries and information services to Latinos and Spanish speakers, had a program that I coordinated in terms of how we were serving Latinos in our communities, mostly online. And this takes me to a big shift that happens in libraries. We saw how libraries were presenting virtual storytelling in Chinese, Bengali, Spanish, different languages. They were providing advice for immigrants, resume and cover letter, all through email and chats. And there were even programs on self-care. There is a group that meets and they meet online, and there were also dance festivals online. So there was a big shift. Some other libraries were able to print and use their 3D printers to print masks, and they donated those to hospitals. And then some libraries saw an increase of 400% on their virtual library cards, where people requested the cards and then they send a barcode through email, and they were able to check materials like that. You know about Realm. I just wanted to show it to you. You know, the fourth test is available, and we know now that it takes 6 days. It might take 6 days for books that are stacked to, you know, get rid, kind of, so to speak, of the virus. And then there were some considerations related to fair use and copyright and legal matters. This is part of a white paper that was written by librarians, and it was until very recently available on the ALA resources page. And then libraries and technology, the last part was very evident. One of the lessons is that it's very evident that the socio-economic and political environment is very important when adapting the different emerging technologies and even artificial intelligence. And we have seen that, and that will be increasing. And so this takes me to some of the lessons that I want to mention that we have observed in terms of the move from in-person to online, more flexibility, the tech trends. There are online components that are here to stay, as well as prevention measures in terms of health of staff and communities. They are here to stay for a long time. There is a sudden investment on safety equipment related to that. And libraries were working more with the local agencies in terms of helping health departments with the trace workers, and they were assigned to different facilities. And that is a very interesting area. And so there are many people working from home, and many libraries won't open physically this semester if they're academic, because their universities are not opening either. So we are bringing change. All of us are bringing change. I'm happy that we are here today united, because this is what is going to help us to help our societies that are going through this very deep change and transition. And now, Albina.
I would like to start my own presentation. Just let me know, it's not working. Yeah, we need the whole screen. On the bottom, on the right, there is an icon of slideshow. On the right. No, it's not there. Sorry. More to the right. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Thank you. Dear colleagues, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. To the colleagues in different cities and the United States and Russia, I'm grateful to Lloyd for this wonderful survey of what the ALA is doing to support the users and the libraries during the pandemic. I think this experience of our American colleagues will be interesting for us as well. The studies of the history of and the comparative analysis of libraries in the United States and in Russia shows that not only we share the same goals, but we have similar venues to work with our readership. We share the same professional challenges, and we could see that even today. In different countries, the librarians are facing the same challenges, such as, well, events like the dialogue that we have just kicked off allows us to resolve those issues together. I would like to discuss a few venues, a few issues. First of all, we have to fight the fake news about the COVID-19. The libraries are centers of correct information in a way. We provide surveys related to laws and bylaws related to the coronavirus infection, certain advice on how to protect yourself against the virus, and also some leisure activities online. We have the model libraries working with the readers in the online regime, combining various initiatives of municipal libraries, doing online work. One more venue that has become really active during the pandemic is supporting the education system. In addition to university libraries, the public libraries in the regions of Russia, the regional scholarly and public libraries are also getting involved in this activities. One more venue are the events to support our professional development. The professional development conferences being conducted in the online regime, and I would like to give you a few examples of projects on supporting our profession and boosting the professional development of librarians in view of the challenges that we are facing. Our website of the Russian Library Association, the experience of Russian libraries is being accumulated in the pandemic conditions. While we are announcing events, we are doing surveys, discussing the services that we've been providing. We are providing live streaming. We also did the interview with Mikhail Afanasyev. That was really very significant to demonstrate to the media and to our readers, to our users, to the whole community, that the libraries play a very significant role today. And I think that many libraries have been able to prove that. The website of the Russian State Library, while they're doing the surveys of the Russian and international libraries, we are covering the experience of international libraries. The libraries also publish the remarks from our international partners. In April, the Foreign Literature Library started a project on how foreign libraries handle the challenges of the pandemic. Today, we already have the address of Gerhard Leitner, the president-elect of IFLA, several addresses from the libraries of Finland, China, Latvia, and a few other countries. The libraries also initiate webinars on our response to the pandemic. One of the examples is the project of the Scientific and Technical Library of the Siberian chapter of the Academy of Sciences. Library life during the pandemic. In April and May, we held a few events, and the recordings of those events are now available on a YouTube channel. Lots of professional magazines responded to the challenges of librarians are facing during the confinement. Some of the discussions are being initiated by professional magazines. One of the examples is the project started by the access to the online ocean during the pandemic. Some of those magazines, the so-called boat in the ocean, they are covering the experience of libraries operations. Is the sixth excerpt of the current library challenge during the pandemic. I would like you to pay attention to one of the publications in the magazine Библиотечное дело, the library business. Since I train the future librarians, it's really nice for me to see that we've prepared an article actually written by the students from the College of Culture in St. Petersburg. They did the survey after monitoring the activities of libraries during the pandemic. This work has been continuing even today, in spite of the fact that the publication is already available. We're about to start a guide on internet resources on libraries during the pandemic. It is being prepared in Russian and in English, and it includes not just links to the experience of Russian libraries, but also to the experience of American libraries, as well as the libraries in some other countries. And one more point I would like to make, that all of those projects are not the only ones. You know, we have plenty of similar examples in our country and in the United States as well as elsewhere. And these 2 days during this dialogue will allow the participants of this dialogue, as well as the colleagues joining us on Facebook, or those seeing the our recording later, they will be able to see the new experience of what the librarians are doing during the pandemic, you know, see the challenges, and maybe try to find a way out. Thank you so much, speakers, for this wonderful surveys. We decided to make it really brief. Most of the time it doesn't work very well. At this point we will start speeding up a little bit, and we will have to refer to what already has been told. And during our surveys, I would like to start the first block, which is calling us on for discussing the impact of the pandemic on developing our library collections. Has it changed anything in providing the access to the information, to providing some remote or virtual services in libraries? What kind of impact did the pandemic have on our services? What kind of how about the digital divide, digital inequality between various demographics? Because the pandemics actually revealed those complications. Not everyone was able to start living digitally, and how could the libraries try to face those challenges, helping the losing parties, so to speak, of the digital divide? We have initiators of discussion, a few people from both countries, people who will be able to ask questions that they have, and I would like to be to somehow try to respond to those questions. I would like to ask our audience on Facebook to keep asking questions and make comments. I would like to give the floor to Nicole Cook, our wonderful colleague from the University of South Carolina. Let her talk about what's going on in their community. After her, I will give the floor to Kevin Hawkins, who represents the University of Northern Texas. And on the Russian side, I would like to ask Larisa Suleimanova to speak from Irkutsk. It's a real missile, you know, who ventured into the digital life. It has been developing apace, just like many other libraries in the world and in Russia. And I would like Larisa to discuss the services provided to the community about the new experiences. Nicole, then Kevin, then Larisa.
Good morning. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you all today, and I'm very happy to see some familiar faces, friends I haven't seen in a couple of years. So I think Loida gave a wonderful overview of what we're seeing in the United States, and certainly in the Southeast United States where I am, we're seeing a lot of the same issues. And what I wanted to kind of put forth to the group is when we're talking about services for our community in the time of a pandemic, curbside services, you know, trying to disinfect books and having our physical spaces closed. I want to put forth this idea that our library community is also going through COVID, is also going through the pandemic. And so when things really started to shut down here in the United States, the school that I'm at the University of South Carolina at the School of Information Science. So I'm working with graduate students and undergraduate students who want to be in the information profession and who aspire to be librarians. We have to now be more purposeful in our conversations with these students about what it's actually going to be like in libraries. I don't know, certainly we will hopefully move past the pandemic, but we will also always have some type of event or some type of crisis, unfortunately, that we have to deal with. For instance, in South Carolina, where I am, we have hurricanes, tornadoes, etc. Ellen has fires all over the West Coast. And these are also things that our library professionals have to deal with. And so to, you know, extend this idea of self-care, right? We talk a lot about self-care and how librarians are supposed to be mindful of how they're feeling and how things are impacting them. But I would also suggest as a community that we try to do more for each other, right? This idea of self-care is perhaps something that people think of, oh, I'm going to do this at home and I'm going to do this on my own. And that can be even more isolating, and that can be even more difficult to do without the benefit of the community that you are used to. So a couple of examples, and I'm sure people have heard some of these stories, the physical spaces that are now opening back up. The library staff is having difficulty with some of the community members who don't want to wear their personal protective equipment. And, you know, it's being very politicized and thought that their rights are being infringed, as opposed to looking at it as a communal health issue. There was a library in the United States where 2 security monitors were actually put into the hospital because they were assaulted by a patron who did not want to wear a mask. We have other library staff who are being furloughed, right? Because that's part of the economic impacts that we are seeing because of the pandemic. So while we see libraries doing really amazing things, and they're doing so much more with less funding, with less staff, we need to be very mindful and protective of the staff that remains and the staff that wants to come join you after the pandemic. And so we need to be really thinking about staff members as part of the community, not just staff. So everything that the patrons are going through, whether it's the digital divide or not having Wi-Fi and infrastructure in their homes, not being able to travel, themselves being sick, right? It's not just the community, it is the staff, because the staff is supposed to be part of the community. So I would just, you know, would love to offer that as a conversation starter, not only for us to think about for the profession, but, you know, selfishly also for me to take back for the students. We are actually experiencing a bit of an uptick in enrollment, and that tends to happen when we have economic downturn. And we have a lot of people who want to do this wonderful work in libraries, and we now need to shift a little bit in our education of them to let them know that these are some of the things that they may encounter. And how do we develop that empathy, not only for the communities that we serve, but how do we also extend the story so our communities have empathy for us and extend grace to us as providers who are perhaps also under duress during a pandemic or another event. So thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here and look forward to being in conversation with you.
Thank you, Nicole. I think it a little bit relates even to the third block of our discussion, what is happening with the profession, but it's good because there are so many intertwined, oh, I forgot that I'm using English language, okay. So intertwined, yeah. So thank you very much. And now we would like to hear from Kevin Hawkins. Please, Kevin.
Hello. I don't want to repeat the excellent summaries that my colleagues have given, so in the interest of time, I'll just make one or two brief comments about academic libraries in the US. You know, while most, nearly every university or college was able to move its classes entirely online during the spring, that gave some more flexibility to academic libraries in terms of taking appropriate measures for safety. But I can say that at the University of North Texas, we actually did not completely close our main library because we did have students who were living on campus who didn't have another place to go, right? They lived in a dormitory and they didn't have a home to go back to or couldn't get there safely, whatever the case may be. And so we did have to maintain minimal staffing through the pandemic. We had maybe 4 people in the building when we were open. And so, you know, we did have to do our best to adapt during the situation. Another way we adapted is that we have for many years had a service that where we lend laptops to students for like 2 or 4 hours or something like that. But we began lending laptops for longer periods because we had students who suddenly had to attend classes online, right, through Zoom. And so we gathered laptops from other units on campus, from the colleges and schools, and centralized that service in the library. So we were certainly seen as an essential service, an essential part of the university. Yes, and we also, looking at Nicole's comment, we also did lend some Wi-Fi hotspots as well. So I will leave it at that in the interest of time.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Really some interesting points that you have made. And I would like to give the floor to Larissa at this point for her to tell us what's going on in Irkutsk. And I would like you to pay attention to something else. We're talking about our collection, about the integral part of any library. What was going on with the books when people stopped borrowing books? Well, what were you doing to replenish the collections? Well, how were you able to provide the information? Well, please go ahead. Dear colleagues, hello. Well, it's it's 11 p.m. In Irkutsk right now, and I'm really happy that this dialogue is possible today. And there were some opinions. Well, during the COVID, we figured out how to get together. It stopped being a psychological barrier for us to talk like this. And this real growth in the number of professional events and discussions is a good sign of the times that we're in. When it comes to making up our collections and the impact of the pandemic, there is a real paradox here, and I'm pretty sure that many of my colleagues from both countries will share my opinion that but even before that, we had been providing a lot of online services when it came to the access to our electronic libraries, to our electronic catalogs, to our bibliographical resources. We were providing some virtual information, but when the pandemic started, for many people, this work has become really noticeable. This work has become more visible for representatives of journalism because they kept writing to us about the theatrical and museum activities during the pandemic, philharmonic societies and so on. Well, because they were all staying at home. But when the librarians started explaining that we have resources for the online format, people seem to be astonished by that. Well, I wonder if our American colleagues had a similar, have had a similar effect of the pandemic. One more point I'd like to make, something that I really wonder about. I wonder what it looked like in the United States, if you guys have ever had that experience. What I'm referring to is the books deliveries. Well, if the books were ordered by the readers from homes, or maybe to some locations closer to their homes, to your readers' homes. Well, after 2.5 months of the pandemic, we started delivering the books from our library to the closest bookstore in Irkutsk. This is the main city in Irkutsk region. We have over 20 branches of the local region bookstores network. We were delivering books there. Effective 15th of June, we started providing this service because we started doing the online registration of our readers. I wonder if you guys have been doing that in the US, because it's been quite popular among the bookstores and among some grocery services and so on. I would like to know what our American colleagues have been doing in that regard. Thank you very much, Larissa. It was a great question, and I think we have a long queue here to comment on that. David Siders would like to say a few words. Then Maria Paiku, then Svetlana Tarasova.
Thank you so much, everyone, and what a pleasure to see you all. I wanted to touch on, I'm David from Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library. We're a library system in the United States, in Ohio, that's sort of in the middle of the United States, but closer to the eastern side of our country, as many of you know. And I wanted to touch on what Loida and Albina said in terms of continuity of library service, to be there for our communities, and to touch on what Nicole and Kevin said about the purpose that we're instilling in our new librarians and new library workers, the purpose and the empathy. Our library shut down for safety measures in early March, and it was just shocking, to be honest with you, because we have always been open to our public in an equitable manner for decades, more than a century. So what we did, we considered ourselves as second responders. Libraries, library staff, libraries across the country, public and academic. In the United States, we call first responders emergency personnel that respond to disasters, as Nicole pointed out. First responders are heroes, medical professionals, emergency workers that keep people safe. We consider libraries and library staff second responders. We are there to reassure our community members that we provide continuity of service, that we are there to keep our relationships going and to provide services. And specifically addressing what Nicole pointed out as the concerns, and Nancy did as well, about the digital divide. Our library system kept our phone lines, our phone services open fully and immediately as soon as physical buildings closed. We serve 600,000 plus people in a county of 800,000 people. We took hundreds of calls a day, and one of the most pressing emergency needs in our state and local areas was unemployment. Shocking unemployment occurred immediately for so many people. And to bridge the digital divide, we offered help with people, individuals filing for unemployment over the phone. And the United States has what was called the Federal CARES Act, which was federal funding to support folks during the pandemic for unemployment and other resources. Very complicated paperwork that we helped people over the phone navigate and achieve. So to point out, that second response that we all provided in the United States and as you were talking about in Russia is an extremely important concept, I think, that points to what Nicole is saying about the purpose of libraries in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Really good response. We already have some groups of interesting projects and ideas that we really have to put in writing and provide to our respective communities as guidelines for future work, which is the actual goal of our dialogue: create something usable for our future work. I especially appreciate the fact that David introduced himself. Please introduce yourself so that people knew where you are from. Marie, Svetlana.
Hi, I'm Marie Pico from Topeka, Kansas. So I am directly in the center of the United States.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak towards the collection development question, and then I will talk a little bit about home delivery. So interestingly enough, as we closed mid-March, we closed all of our library completely and did need to move on to digital platforms. We allocated a large percentage of our collections budget to providing e-content. And so a lot of our ratios that we would normally do in print, we allocated to our e-content, which allowed us to respond rather quickly. That's the nice thing about ebooks. You don't have to worry about processing them. You don't have to worry about slapping on a barcode. As soon as you order it, you get it immediately. We certainly live in a rural state, so there is a significant digital divide, and we were very cognizant of that. So while we were able to bolster our e-content, we did understand there were areas of our community that did not have strong broadband access. One of the things we also did is we took our mobile library service and we deployed them in key areas of the community and set them up as hotspots. So people could drive to the bookmobile, could hop onto the hotspot and could use the internet service that way. That helped not just people who were accessing our library content, it also allowed them to stay connected to their families if they didn't have internet access. It allowed them to respond to unemployment issues, and also allowed them to continue the online learning experience that all of our students were then experiencing, which has been incredibly disruptive for families. We actually have historically mailed library collections to people who've asked for material, so it got directly to their home. And we have continued to do a home delivery service. And the way we did that to be able to protect everybody was a little more costly, but we had 2 vans going out. And so one van would have the clean library materials that had been sitting for at least 4 to 6 days to be protected. And then we had another van that actually picked up everything else that had been in the homes, and of which we then had all the PPE, the personal protective equipment on, and a way to protect our staff. And then we took them into quarantine. So the role of librarian has shifted in Topeka, Kansas dramatically, and has also been able to be as nimble as humanly possible to be able to meet the needs. And our community has responded so dramatically and has been so happy. We have seen about 200% uptick in virtual library cards. And so people who maybe didn't want to explore our e-content have jumped on board and have begun to borrow. So we're seeing people now who are borrowing ebooks as well as physical books now that we're back open. In terms of the collection development for our print collection, I will say, because the entire system was shut down, we were backlogged. once we were open again. And so being able to communicate to our customers why the hot new title wasn't there the day we opened was a little challenging, because they just assumed our docs were open and we were processing. So that took about an extra 10 days to get all those materials out. But we have seen a really strong support from our community, and they're so happy to see us again and to make sure we're safe, and we're making sure they're safe. It's been a wonderful situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you very much. Great perspective. Светлана Антоновна, пожалуйста.
Svetlana Tarasova, from Novosibirsk, that very Novosibirsk, yeah, that was expecting to see all of you, and the desire is still there. We are going to see you in a year. The situation that I'm talking about right now, it's characteristic not just of Novosibirsk, but well, the funding remained for doing the government job, even though at some point we were told that all of you guys go home for self-confinement. You're not going to be working. Well, for about a week we have reoriented our websites. We were keeping in touch with our readers. We had a few channels. There was a special channel to talk to us on the phone and on our website, but a few days later we were trying to figure out why would we just sit there idle. We started making our home stations, workstations at home. We could stay idle, and we would have been paid, but people didn't want to stay idle. And we started talking more about our collections during the show, using the social networks. All of those posts would always have taken our readers to our electronic catalog or to our subscription catalog, pushing the readers to learn something new, not to stay in anguish, but try to do something. We've started a lot of effort on digitalization. We didn't have enough notebooks and computers, and our technicians did a great job digitalizing our collections. You know that this year Russia is celebrating the 75th anniversary of our victory in the Great Patriotic War and the Second World War, and we've been really, all of the regions have been really active in working with the community, trying to get memoirs in all formats. We were trying to videotape them. We were trying to provide the video cameras and the memory sticks to collect unique recollections in families, the audio and video materials, some unique materials being available and having an access to all of those materials for all of our users. Well, the life was going on in our region. We've been trying to be really active. Am I right, Larissa? Svetlana, thank you so much. We're really looking forward to seeing each other next year in Novosibirsk. So we'll be discussing how the libraries were getting shut down. I think Russia used to be really interesting. Our government was giving us a few days, well, a few days of vacation, so to speak, vacations to get adopted to this situation. We'll be discussing that during the third block.
Hello, everyone. Really nice to see many familiar faces. I will be speaking later, and actually I work at the Skokie Public Library in suburban Chicago, about a few miles from the city. I just would like to mention one thing that historically Skokie Library was doing the homebound delivering books to people who are either physically handicapped or older people, but we decided to stop this service temporarily because of the safety measure. What we also done, which is a little bit different, shortly before the pandemic, we reevaluated our bookmobile stops. We have a bookmobile at the Skokie Public Library, and we created several stops which are more reflect our community needs for people we've done a lot of data assessment, and we figure out that there are certain areas in our suburb where people have less access to resources based on their social economical situation mostly, and some other reasons. So, and it was really helpful because when the library started opening in the beginning of June, not the library is still opening very slowly, but the bookmobile service became available. Our stops in those areas are very crucial at the moment. So this is a little change we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katrina. And I think we will get a chance to discuss it in more detail later.
As it comes as no surprise, the time is just flying by. There's so much to say in so little time. But we are going to keep moving forward and shifting slightly. All of these issues are not completely separate blocks. They flow into each other. We've already had some words about the community and how we might be working differently with the community. And that's what I want to focus on for, the next 20 or so minutes. And we have asked Julius Jefferson and again, Katrina, who we just heard from, to kick us off on the US side, and then again, Svetlana Tarasova, and then Olga Nachapkinga to say a few words from the Russian side about what we're learning about what the pandemic had us rethink the way that we work with community, and then ways that we might be telling our story. So Julius.
All right, I'll go first. So I'll be brief because I want to hear what others have to say. But when we think about the pandemic, for me and from my perspective, having moved toward a virtual environment to go across country to visit those underrepresented or under-resourced libraries and hear their stories. So this is something that we had expected to do in normal times, but we were able to see it. And what you heard a lot of people talk about, when you think about how America is set up, you have major cities on the East Coast, you have major cities on the West Coast, and then you have the middle. And you have many of us here, not me, but many of us from the US are in the middle. And what we found out when you go across the country is that those in the middle are usually not heard from. And so it was more about the library community already knew what some of the issues were. The library community, those who are library workers, those who have been advocating for libraries in the US for many years and across the globe already knew that there was an issue of not being connected. Everyone's not connected. And what we saw when we went into this idea that we could not be together and that we had to rely, as you heard, for applying for jobs, applying for services, going to school, we had to rely on our libraries to provide these essential services. You heard, I believe it was David talk about second responders at ALA. We use the term second responders regularly, but we also focus on these essential services that we saw most as we were going through COVID-19. And I think one of the things that I was able to see is that that dialogues like this and hearing these stories are most effective when we begin to advocate for libraries across the country. So I put a couple of links there from our Holding Space tour. And if you have an opportunity to check it out, you can actually read the stories, and you can read the services that libraries provided during this time, but not just during this time. I mean, you begin to see how essential libraries are to their communities, whether it's COVID-19 or not. And again, this is something that our community, our group already knew. And the point is, how do we articulate that broadly beyond COVID-19 and moving forward? And how do we think about how we share what folks are doing in other parts of the world and bring that back and bring the best to our communities? So I'll stop there. I could probably talk for another hour here, but I'll stop here and I'll pass the ball.
Thank you so much, Julius. Katrina.
Hello again. There are a lot of things to say, but I try to be very fast, I hope. Skokie Public Library closed on March 14, and since then, it's amazing how in 2 weeks we moved most of our programs online. None of us could have think that it will be possible to have dance parties online for kids, Stand Against Racism program online, and many others. I personally work with ethnic communities. I work in the community engagement department, and this is our job, to work with different communities. My specialty is working with their ethnic communities and health programming. So I moved all my programs pretty fast, and I have 2 big programs going on, one called ESL Cafe, which is an English language conversation group. And I talk personally to all participants, and it took a while to force them or encourage them to participate in the online sessions. And it took a lot on my side to train many people, which was another way of communication and encourage people to use technology. But it worked. And in the end of March, all my programs were moved online successfully, and they're successfully working since now. There are a lot of, it's really hard to say, but pandemic brought a lot of, it's like in the time of crisis, people start thinking quickly and active fast. So this is what's happened. I think because of that, a lot of our patrons or users of the library, they figure out that there is no other way. In a few weeks, it was clear that we're not going to be back soon. So they start using our online resources. And for years, we were talking how to push the statistics up, because still our statistic wasn't quite there. So now our online usage is really high, and people love our online resources. Our program participation is very good. And honestly, we don't know how long we're going to have online programs, probably till the end of the year for sure, but look like in the beginning of the year, we still won't be able to have face-to-face programs at the library. Again, Nicole mentioned a self-care component for professional staff and our patrons, and I really agree with that. Other things which are very positive, which happened during the pandemic and on, is our transparency between people who work at the library, between our staff. Every 2 weeks, we have meetings with our director, online, of course, and it's very transparent. We have a feel what management doing, what other people doing, people sharing their success stories or their downfalls. We're trying to open the library very carefully, because though some of you visited our library last year, and you've seen that we were in preparation to the big renovation. So our renovation started in December of 2019. Who would have think about pandemic, right? So now here we are, we have a pandemic, the library closed, in the same time we have renovation going on. So for our reopening, it's been a really problem with having 80,000 plus physical items on hand, and having the renovation, there is technically no place to take all those items back to the library. In the same time, we need to work with our patrons. We need to open libraries somehow. So we open a curbside in the beginning of June, and we successfully have a curbside deliveries and pick up by the library on the bookmobile. But our library is opened only since September 1st, and very, very slowly with the limited hours and limited services, not mentioning that construction is still going on pretty actively in the building. And also I'd like to mention that the culture statement of our library is, we serve the community and we are a community. And I hope that whatever happened with the whole world during the last 6 months, it's proof that it is working. We are the community and we need to change, and we need to serve our people in the changing environment in the different ways. And of course, not everything is going very successfully, but it is going and it is working. And it's really, there are a lot of positive things in the very tragic, sometimes situation, whatever happened in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. And now we'll run back to the other side, back to Novosibirsk. Svetlana, you talked some already about, documenting the work of the memoirs of the World War II. What are other ways that you've been changing your work with community?
Thank you very much, Julius. Thank you very much, Katrina. And I would like to continue the conversation. On Sunday, Loida placed her really wonderful picture on Facebook. It's been half a year since the world changed. Please take care of yourself, you beauties. The world has changed. It's still not a very quiet place. What's going on? Well, very fast, the things that we've been accustomed to for so long, those paradigms have been changing really fast. Remote work, atomization of communities and of public spaces, and a library is a public space. We have online events instead of our regular forums, the total digitalization, a totally new consumption pattern. We are able to sacrifice our freedom for safety and security, and we are capable of doing that, and that applies to all of the industries. On the other hand, that applies to libraries as well, as we are working with the community. But not all things are bad. This is not what I'm trying to tell you. Well, the huge trends, the huge global processes and challenges that have been discussed for a while in the world as a whole, including in our library community, those changes have been happening too fast in a very accelerated manner, right here and right now. And the librarians need to understand, and we do understand, if we want to play the same active role in the future, we have to make sure that we get adopted to the new challenges, to the new conditions, and we have to revise our strategies and the models of dealing with the community that we have been used to. The libraries have not been stopped or shut down altogether. Well, they were still active in the online regime, and we have never forgotten about our small libraries. We are talking about the small libraries in the heartland. We're also talking about remote communities that are far away from major metropolitan areas. We were trying to keep informing them. We're trying to figure out how to help them to work with the local communities. And I must tell you that just like what Katrina said, we've been able to start doing a lot of model libraries in smaller communities. We're talking about children's libraries, and we're about to open the linguistic center on teaching English, a special linguistic lab named Pearson. And here I would like to point out a trend that has had a really strong impact on our libraries. We are talking about the trend clarifying what's going on with us. We have two approaches. The first of those approaches is the safety. Safety is above everything, and the second one is the security control that is being perceived with a lot of understanding. The society as a whole has been prepared to sacrifice some of its freedoms for the sake of safety and security. Why would that be of any concern for me? Why I'm discussing that? Well, our desire to interacting with the community, well, under the open library model, it has been put on the pause, placed on the pause button at this point. And this opportunity, well, of trying to figure out whether we are ever able to return to the openness pattern in dealing with the local community. It's still unclear. I'm not a Delphi oracle. This is not something that I could predict. We also suggested that our community use the options available on our website to search for books, to schedule appointments, to schedule book orders. For some people it was really very easy, but we were dealing with the challenges of the fact that too many people are simply unable to use those e-options, to use the electronic services and electronic orders. And this is something I remember IFLA published an analytical survey in 2014, 5 key trends that could have an impact on our environment. The first trend was that the new technologies are expanding the access, and they're also restricting the circle of people having access to the information. We have even more important challenge of advancing the media literacy in our community, because the access restrictions, since people were unable to use the digital technologies, that is a threat for the equal access, and it has a poor impact on the quality of life in our communities. Here is something that we need to continue thinking about. We have to keep the balance between humanities aspect and the digitalization, and we have to have a targeted approach. We don't have a uniform approach. The communities we have to deal with are very diverse. How does the role of libraries change in their dealings with self-organizing communities? The communities have become much more active, and the libraries also ought to retool the mechanisms of working with the most active citizens. The citizens' activity has been growing, well, within the legal framework. How do we keep the mission of the libraries, to ensure the equal access of citizens to the information? We have to think to take measures to ensure the safety and security of our users, of our community, of our librarians, and also of our collections. And those goals, they really intermingle. And we know that to preserve our collections, we can't really process them. We have to keep them on quarantine, or we have highly technological chambers to process them, to disinfect them. We have to balance out the digital resources with the physical and offline resources, and we have to balance out the the architecture, the structure of our libraries, well, some of its functional duties, because first we have to, about 70% of the time we used to work in online regime, and only 20% of our work was online. Right now we have to revisit the names of our positions in libraries, because we are not really restricted, and within the framework of our funding we could actually adopt the structure of our library to the needs that have been really delineated today.
Thank you, Svetlana.
My suggestion is to
now we'll go
that.
to the center of Russia to hear from Olga. I'm happy to meet you virtually. I know we haven't met in person, but it's always good to grow our family and ties.
Dear colleagues, hello. Olga Nachapkina from the city of Yekaterinburg, the Sverdlovsk Regional Scientific Library. I'm the chief of the Department of Literature and Foreign Languages. Well, we have to restructure the library's work with the community. We have to talk about our community of foreign nationals. Before the pandemic, our library was frequented by readers from 38 foreign nations, and before the pandemic our section had a great format of interacting with the foreign nationals. They were both readers of the library, they were also chiefs of linguistic clubs, volunteers, and they were also visitors of various linguistic clubs for foreign nationals. We had the Russian language club in Belinka to improve the foreign nationals' Russian skills, and we were interacting with them really well. And once the pandemic started, well, we started developing various online projects where we were using the services of foreign nationals. We ended up with a lot of those projects. We've been using the services of foreign nationals from 16 nations, from China, Peru, Egypt, Senegal, Indonesia, Germany, Austria, Benin, Iraq, Haiti, Morocco, Afghanistan, Congo, Comore Islands, and many other nations. Well, the projects were very diverse. Online lectures and seminars offered by our international partners. We also created our own audio products like ebooks, something looking like ebooks, literary readings of German language authors, or readings of translations of German language authors conducted by the leader of our German language section. What we ended up with, what we wound up with is really good. Everything is going to remain. All these video and audio materials, they're all available on the YouTube canal, on Belinka's Friends. Everything is accessible at any moment. Unfortunately, where we have really failed, and I would like to hear the advice of our Russian and American colleagues, maybe they had to deal with that challenge. Well, before the pandemic, we linguistic clubs had been really popular. We had 8 clubs, and that was the most popular venue of our cultural activities. Once the pandemic started, we were unable to digitalize any of our linguistic clubs that depended on our leaders of linguistic clubs. They were simply unwilling to do that online. If the curator is not there, there is no linguistic club online, because learning a language is about speaking. That was something really attractive, because people could talk to a native speaker. But we now have a new online project named Foreigners in Belinka. Well, we have online meetings with curators of linguistic clubs, but the linguistic clubs themselves were actually shut down, and a huge community of users of those linguistic clubs, are the Russian language communities. Some of the visitors there also turned out, they were just shut down, and we just lost connection with them for a certain period of time. What I would like to know, I was following up while we were all hunkered down. I was following up on what our colleagues in other Russian cities were doing, whether some of them went online, some of them didn't go there. What was the level of attendance of those
Thank
virtual
you, Olga. I
clubs?
have
And I
two
would also
people
like to
who
learn
are
more about
waiting
the experience of
patiently
our
in the
American
queue.
colleagues.
So Nancy Kronik and then Larisa. And then I think I'm going to put the moderator baton back in Svetlana's hand to move us to the next section, because time keeps running. But first, Nancy.
Thanks all. This is also interesting. So I really appreciate everybody's contributions. I just wanted to add something that sort of carries over from before, but helps to frame some of the issues. We're talking about all these great things that have happened, and in moving to electronic world, we actually got a lot of cooperation from the publishing industry, but unfortunately, they gave us access only temporarily. And because this 2-week pandemic quarantine ended up being much longer, we're now having to withdraw all of these materials that we made available. And so even though, ideas around opening up access, not necessarily having open access, were relaxed, or the restrictions were relaxed for a time, the cooperation and the progress we've made with the publishing industry, I think, was pretty temporary. So I think we'll talk more probably about copyright, but I think that this cooperation and the way we've developed our collections has been not only tragic for the print, but a lot of the electronic hasn't sustained itself either.
Thank you, Nancy. Larisa.
Colleagues, I would like to add one cue prompted by Svetlana. I would like you to pay attention to the fact that in our country, in Russia, while the Ministry of Culture did provide the support to establish tools for working with the communities, and they were being used by small libraries located in small communities. I'm talking about the web portal Culture RF, with a lot of high quality content about the National Electronic Library. Mr. Duda already covered that in his greeting, and about the tool called proculture.rf. This is a professional segment of the same culture.rf website, and that really boosted the skills of libraries in the social media. Among the libraries who hadn't been utilizing that earlier, the libraries got a chance to keep in touch with the communities existing in offline, in regular life. And I would like to respond to the question from Belinka Library. Our linguistic club did move to online. Our linguistic clubs are really strong. They are not. They are usually not more than 30 members there. They have all moved to the Zoom, and from the very beginning,
Thank you,
they were
Larissa.
continuing their meetings.
Svetlana, I'm handing the moderator baton back to you. I do want to also remind people, as the time is short, that also feel free to type a comment into chat if your comment or story you want to share is short. Another way we can continue the communication. Svetlana.
Thank you very much, Ellen. Thank you very much to all of the participants of the discussion. There is a whole pool of observations and remarks. Well, please attach some links and resources to them. Put your questions into the chat. It will be saved later. Well, let's move on to block number 3. Let's talk about what was going on inside of our profession. We were referring to a few issues already touched upon by many speakers. We're talking about supporting our professional associations. It's the personnel development that the demand, the necessity of digitalization, of moving on to this totally new environment. It was begging for some extra professional development of our colleagues. We started talking about the safety and of our librarians. We're not talking about the physical safety only, but about the mental safety as well. We are talking about leaving the job. It's the fear for one's life and health. It's new forms of communication in the family, in the workplace. We have a few people who we want to start our discussion. On the American side, we'll be talking to Roosevelt Weeks and Michael Dowling, and on the Russian side, it will be Mr. Misha Afanasyev, the director of the Russian Library Association, and Mr. Anton Purnik, great expert and a friend who has been doing a very significant work to ensure that the Russian library community gets
good morning, everybody, and good afternoon or good evening to everyone. My name is Roosevelt Weeks, and I bring you greetings from the great state of Texas, the capital city of Austin, at the Austin Public Library. We closed down our facilities to the public back in March, and trying to define what we do with 75% of our staff who's used to coming into the workforce and providing services to the public. That was a huge challenge, and one of the challenges is having staff to work from home and provide services, and staff not having the tools that they need to provide those services, or they're not equipped or trained to provide or use of technology. It was a huge challenge. Just as we recognized there was a huge digital divide within the community of those who do not have access, the same thing with our staff. And providing them with those tools and providing training to them was a huge task for us. It wasn't so much as the majority of the staff, but for those who could not use technology or have access to technology, that was a challenge. But one of the things that this pandemic has shown us, and it's been a curse and a blessing, is that the blessing side of it is that we're able to train our staff with their downtime where they're not providing service to the public, where we're providing them training opportunities where they can learn how to do outreach, they can learn the latest technology, they can learn how to do programming. And so those are some skills that that staff has been able to gain, where it makes it more marketable and helpful to not only to our customers, but to our staff, to the staff members as well, when they want to look for promotional opportunities within your organization. They're picking up these skills because they have the time to do that work. As Silvana had mentioned, you know, it's not a physical thing that we are always looking at, it's a mental thing as well. When you're trying to juggle this pandemic, children at home, where a lot of the parents are working from home, the students are working from home, and dealing in an environment they're not used to. I don't know if for those who have children, children will drive you crazy if you're with them for 24 hours a day. And so having to deal with that, and mentally the stress of you know, providing those services, being online, it's a tough chore. It's an absolute tough chore. And so what we try to do is to bring our employee assistance program, where we have mental experts to come in and provide classes and training to those staff members. And some of the skills that our staff really need to pick up on is how to use the technology, how to be, how to present those skills, virtual programming to the public virtually. Some of our staff never had the opportunity to do that. And the majority of our staff are introverts, and being in front of the camera and doing a presentation can be difficult. And so they're having to learn how to do those type things as well. The other thing is time management. When you're at home dealing with a lot of things and you're being distracted, you got to develop how to manage your time wisely so that you can do your work, take care of your family environment, but also stay on top of things. When you don't have a supervisor or a manager there to tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, people have to think independently of how to work and how to get stuff done. I'm gonna stop right there and let Michael continue from that standpoint. Michael, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Roosevelt, and thank you so much for kind of bringing it home to the local level. I will take it back up a little bit to kind of the association level, and I think just hearing from our Russian colleagues about what you've been doing since we've last communicated, and kind of what ALA and how the U.S. library community has responded. I think overall, I think we should give ourselves a little pat on the back. I think, you know, these are critically terrible, difficult times, but I think the associations as a group, I mean, this is where the family that we've been talking about, we are a family and we have come together. And though we're not at the dining room table anymore all the time, that we are in these spaces. We've created spaces where we can talk to each other about a lot of these issues that we're facing. And so some of them, as you said, are health related. They're the mental health issues. So we've had, you know, all the conversations going on at the national level on these issues. We've also had local, statewide discussions going on, kind of weekly meetings going on during those real tough first weeks. So, and then we've been moving in the process of, you know, how can we work together on, you know, the best practices of safety, reopening, those kind of things. So I think the associations have, you know, done what we're really kind of set up what our mission is. You know, we're there to support the profession. I think we certainly have more moving forward. I think they're just from the staff development side, certainly we are moving into that, more into that territory as an association, as we see what these skill sets, new skill sets are happening, and looking at who is able to provide those trainings. So I think that's another opportunity. And certainly the fact that we are sharing globally much more now is also very exciting and encouraging, that we in the US also, we're looking outside for how others were doing responses to different areas of you know, dealing with the pandemic, others, you know, the social unrests in other locations, et cetera. So I think, again, the associations itself, it's an opportunity for us to be there as that real support spine for our members and our community, and to listen to our community and to respond to our community as they go through we continue to move through this. One of the new webinars we're having in a couple weeks is, what happens when a COVID case comes to your library? Again, we've put all these safety measures in place, but obviously we will have, and we've had cases where staff or the community members who've come to our libraries have tested positive. And again, what are those steps? How does the library respond in that area? Because we know, Russia has a vaccine that is being used now, but in the US we haven't started that. So we know this is going to be a process for 6-8 months probably, where we're going to be challenged with potential cases, and how do we respond? And again, that's how associations can look at how we can provide best guidance to everybody going forward. So those are just some of my thoughts on this.
Michael and Roosevelt, thank you very much. Thank you for mentioning the webinars. And you have really well developed system of training and of providing information. And the COVID-19 is already in our library system, and we have to process that information and provide it to our experts. Maybe we should listen to Mikhail right now. I'm a little bit at a loss right now, because during this entire discussion today, we've been talking about about both associations. We were discussing the personnel development issues. So the segment that I could cover right now has become very restricted. What I would like to pay attention to is one issue that hasn't been really covered at length here, and that was something that we had to take care of. We're talking about the spread of infection through the books. Yeah, I heard that that in America you have a 6-day quarantine for books. We only have 3 books quarantine. At the very beginning, though, Mr. Duda kept 5 days of quarantine, and I wanted only 3 days quarantine. I'm not really sure who is right, but we ended up with just 3 days quarantine. But this issue only emerged not just because we had to make a decision as professionals. It also emerged because the authorities regulating the quarantine, their attitude was really simple. If a book could be an information value, maybe the books should not be given out. All libraries need to be shut down, and let's wait till the virus is gone. And the first bylaws coming on to us, they were super strict. They were just brutal, and our approach had to be professional. We had to divide technologies, safe technologies, and those technologies that are potentially risky. We had a really funny joke on the internet. A guy comes up to a library, walking down the aisle, getting a book, and then he's being followed by a librarian disinfecting the book after the touch. It was impossible to work like this. Well, it was quite professional in a way. Our recommendation was quite professional. On the one hand, the library got a chance to work. On the other hand, it allowed some measure of safety to both a reader and a librarian, which is quite an achievement of our library association, that took care of a lot of fears among the librarians, because the librarians were really apprehensive. They were afraid to be in the hotbed of infection. That is about the Library Association. Here I would like to talk more about our personnel development. This is the issue that we've been shamefully concealing. Well, maybe our American colleagues don't even have that challenge. When our employees, our librarians were quarantined, and the quarantine, there were several venues for quarantine. For a week, we were told, well, effective the day after tomorrow, you will no longer be working. It was like fleeing the scene. Well, the flowers were not watered, and we simply left for 3 weeks, and those flowers, of course, were suffering because they were not being watered. It was our paid leave, quarantine leave. Well, things were temporary. Then we started doing our home assignments, so to speak. People started working remotely from home. Well, we actually kept delivering computers to home. Some people were involved, some were not. Then personnel were allowed back into libraries without the readers. And we started working with collections, but not with the readers. And finally, today, we are providing some limited services. In today's situation, as an administrator, as a manager, I saw my staff, my librarians with very different eyes. It has become crystal clear to me who is capable of doing a good job, who has the skills and who doesn't, but who is actually willing to work and change himself or herself. Some people were not willing to do that. It's a very important issue. Some people are just used to live every day, to show up in the library, do the beloved job, and all of a sudden the library is shut down and they are left outside, and they didn't want to change. They said that they were afraid of the virus, and the paradox I was facing, that for people who were who were older than 80, wanted to still continue working in the libraries, but 30-year-olds were scared to death by the virus. They were just willing to stay at home, period. It was quite an important psychological issue existing during those during that extreme situation. I really hope that Mr. Purnik will cover a more optimistic model, covering the restructuring of the training and restructuring of approach of our libraries, because our library for youth was a leader in coming up with the new venues of work with the young people and with the new technologies. I would say that, well, we are no longer languishing. We are no longer languishing. I really wanted to respond, you know, about the older people and about the younger people and this fear of the virus. I believe that this is a very simplified approach. People who are 30, they know how to work from home. People who are 80 simply don't know how to work remotely. But I agree with you, but this is a great filter, you know, pretty much, you know, highlighting personal traits and professional peculiarities of each staff person. And this is a matter of your personal attitude and your capability of self-change. Now I would like to give the word to Anton Purnik. Hello, dear colleagues. The Russian State Library for the Youth, we are like an old steed a little bit lullabied by our conversation. I would like to dilute our conversation a little bit, because it sounded like a complete victory, you know, like we were holding our banners, trying to vanquish the virus. You know, we're trying to provide all these new collections to our readers, and we were all in such an incredibly good shape while dealing with the new reality. Once we started talking about the training, you know, people have become a little bit more sad, and I would like to somehow merge these two approaches. My personal feeling is, I'm sorry, you know, maybe I'm talking too fast. Well, I had a feeling as we were moving to staying at home, and Svetlana said that, well, we were given some vacation time for us to regain our senses. In fact, in spite of the fact that we were ready to work remotely, but at the very beginning it was unclear what exactly we're supposed to do in this new life. That we were trying to get used to having people in the library. We have to work for them. You know, when it comes to catalogs, well, everyone knew how to work with the catalogs. Initially, it was a bit unclear how to work with the catalogs, even though, you know, some of our staff people were well aware, some of IT people were well aware of communication values with remote access, VPN, and so on. It turned out that the librarians were totally unprepared for that, even in major libraries. At the beginning, things have really sapped in most libraries. The first stage of trying to figure out how to exist in this online reality, well, for many people, this online reality, on the one hand, we are holding an event. On the other hand, we are trying to replenish our collection, and looks like nothing else is available. But we had lots of other tools that we had to be able to interact with, like how to give orders, how to come up with the new projects when we do any joint projects, how to come up with the tools of interaction. We have to figure out how to interact. Many people were complaining that people had gone crazy, that people start, you know, texting to you because there is no work time anymore. There are no business hours anymore. Since last year, we started the digital literacy school, talking about balancing out the level of digital competency in the country. During the first year, we figured out that something that was obvious for major metropolitan areas was not really obvious in smaller places. Having an extra account on a social network was already a challenge, and what we have been dealing with right now is a matter of training. During the pandemic, a lot of our people took courses not related to libraries. Well, I went through a sailor's course online, and that brought some changes. Why I was discussing that? I haven't had any self-education at all for a while. It turned out that the world is huge, and many people in the library community did discover this online training opportunity. They could actually pick up the tools, but some people have not been utilizing those opportunities. This year we have this course of 400 people for a week. It's really, people really love the course, but the issue is what we should learn. What we shouldn't be just learning how to make great projects for grants. We have to learn how to live in this totally new environment, something that used to be known only to IT administrators. Now everyone has to know that. This is what we have to discuss. What exactly we're supposed to be learning in this new reality. Thank you so much, colleagues. Yeah, you did a great job. We really hopped into the digital world. Our great interpreter hopefully did a great job here. A practical question. You have a really tough competition in getting access to your school. Well, we've been existing for about a month right now. It applies not well, people who are coming up to with online courses, you know, they're doing a really good job because the demand for them is huge. So I would like to that you came up with, well, I pick up a lot of things from Anton. Thank you so much. One more commentator, Daria Belakova, and after that Luba Kazachenkova wanted to talk. And the rest of it will be in the chat because we have at least 2 or 3 minutes to wrap up our conversation. Thank you very much, Anton, for your really interesting coverage of our competency that we've been really lacking, something that we really need, and hopefully we'll be able to return to that later. What I would like to discuss is how the managers ensure the safety of their employees. The pandemic emerged out of nowhere. Well, this is the first experience. We've been trying to learn really fast, and we will need to come up with some instructions for the future about what we should be doing in those situations in the future. The most interesting aspect of a library are the librarians and its staff. We have people at risk, the elderly, people with little children, people with elderly parents, people with chronic conditions, and so on. Virtually everyone. And the librarians are just humans. They were just scared because they were scared to death by the media. We were being explained about how horrible it is, and since we didn't really understand the threat, lots of people go through the library every day, and each one of them could be infected. People do touch the furniture, the computers, and so on. The most important task of a manager here is educating the public, educating the employees. They have to explain to their employees, to their staff, that everything about COVID-19, about how to self-protect from it. They have to provide information on it for the employees. The sanitary, the cleaning of the premises, the disinfection of the premises, and some working schedule. Well, remote work was the best option for the people capable of working remotely, but people capable of working directly with the readers, they had to stay at home. They were just idle at that time. Most of employees were able to work from home quite remotely, quite successfully, and our work from home is getting more and more successful. Therefore, I believe that we have to find find the balance of risks. What is your take on that? What steps, what precautions would be sufficient for the people to show up physically at their workplaces? Because what should we do to ensure that the readers are back to our libraries? Daria, thank you so much. I agree. I believe that our perception of the pandemics kept changing. All the way from the shock to getting reconciled to it. Some people just get got completely relaxed. Some people got even stricter. All of those processes are quite interesting, and we have to follow up on them. The sufficiency of measures. Each establishment and each country defines that for itself. It's a huge subject. In our country, you know, there is, well, each library has its own approach. Each manager has his or her own approach. That was the comment from Miss Natalia Diskaya. Well, some of your staff people, some people want to work, some of them are not really willing to work. What should a manager do? This is, well, how to keep the staff, or how to get rid of that staff, or how to train the people. All these aspects are really interesting. Now I'm giving the floor to Luba Kozachenkova, and after that we will try to wrap up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear and see everyone. For 2.5 hours we've been discussing really interesting and necessary information. I will be discussing the last point. I'm a media person, and our magazine is always in the virtual space, and I can follow up on the library's response to the pandemic. This stupor, this shock was going on for at least a month, not just 2 weeks. The biggest challenge that we've been facing as members of this Russian-American library dialogues, we really have to ponder on that, and maybe we should come up with a set of recommendations for our associations, for our library schools, and for the libraries involved in training. Well, the youth library, the Rodomino library, the library of foreign literature, the Lenin library, and so on. A few issues that are obvious. I'm really happy, I'm thrilled to see the recommendations of IFLA and of the ALA on fighting the fake information. I really hope that the staff people in these countries utilize this information, that they are helpful. When it comes to Russia, the libraries that should be navigating people in the information world, some of them post some unchecked information on the internet. This must not be done, especially if we are talking about a psychological, about a huge psychological challenge for so many people. Then they do that, and then people say that it's a fake information, and people then claim, well, they haven't checked on that. Fighting the fake information has to be one of the main issues. Zoom for American colleagues is a good platform. For the Russian librarians, Zoom has turned into a nightmare during the pandemic, because working with any platforms, including the Zoom, you know, providing a good video conferencing tools, this is something that the Russian libraries are not capable of working with. Sometimes the connection would just be cut off and no one was able to see anything. That's one more subject for training. Another acute issue is the psychological literacy. The pandemic revealed that really bad. All of the media channels were really splashing out showering the negative information. How many people died where, and the libraries were the only venues available to do something about their master classes, about their dancing and singing, so to speak. They have been able to reduce the online tensions, the psychological adaptation courses, and the librarians work with a lot of people who are also electrified, who are also getting nuts, so to speak. This self-training should be offered to the librarians as a self-training tool or as training courses. Once we found ourselves at home, all of our competitors in culture and leisure operations, all of them, you know, rushed to the internet, but they're all professionals. They started organizing really the kind of website covered by Larissa Suleymanova, culture.rf, all of the museums, all of the artistic organizations rushed there. The librarians rushed there as well, but we could not compete with them when it comes to the quality of our presentation, of our streaming, of our content, because this is something that is not primary for us. This is secondary for us. Writing down a script is a difficult issue. The challenge that we have is the quality of online events, you know, directed at cultural leisure. Sometimes it was leisure, but no culture. Nothing. There was nothing cultural about it. The librarians need to be trained production, named production, filming. We have to be universal. We have to be good speakers. We have to be able to speak in front of the cameras. That is really important. These are some of the suggestions, something that we could do to achieve our shared goals, to overcome our challenges. Thank you very much. It was a long comment. We agree with the comment, and I think you wrapped up that part of our conversation. Thank you very much for all of the people who provided their comments. We already see the comments. Some of them are in Russian. Our American colleagues cannot read them. I think we'll be able to translate them, because some of those comments were really interesting, from Natalia Diskaya and Natalia Galeva from Novosibirsk. Thank you very much once again for your effort for 2.5 hours. And Ellen promised that she would do a really quick summing up. Thank you so much. I'm really happy that tomorrow we will get together again. Please wake up early in the morning, brew good coffee. Those who are really sleepy, please stay with us for a few more minutes. This is a very rare opportunity. Lots of thoughts and ideas, lots of things to think about. And I would like now to give the floor to Ellen. We have about 5 more minutes, and then we will go to bed or think or work.
So I got the impossible task of summing up. But what here is what my suggestion is. I'm going to put some work back on you. So I hope you haven't been lulled into complacency, thinking that the time was almost over and you can move on to your day. Or Larissa, thank you so much for staying up to the middle of the night with us. And Svetlana Tarasova too, and your cat and your child. So great to see everyone. But we've talked a lot of wide-ranging things we've found success, things that we're struggling with. I'm going to go back to a word that was, or 2 words actually, that were on Loida's slides earlier in our conversation, which was big shift, right? We all did this big shift, but managed also to try to find continuity, right? And I heard that theme as well, in terms of these were things we were already, you know, always did. It wasn't just because of COVID that we were doing this, but the shifts that happened. Luba at the very end here was giving us some suggestions about things that we could do together, and this is where if you looked at our agenda, the last question for this morning was, what can we do together to advance our common goals and concerns? And we have this wonderful technology that allows everyone to type into chat at the same time. So I think that as we are moving to the end of today, please take a moment to put what are your final thoughts on this day into chat. We can capture it, know what's there, and start to build on that tomorrow, because as Svetlana Gorokhova just said, we're not done. We get to come back together. In less than 24 hours, we'll see our faces again. And I don't want to, I'm going to leave it at that. So please type some words in to the chat. We'll see each other tomorrow. We're shifting a bit to take a focus on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and starting with the themes that we'll run through, because we've talked about health. That's where we'll start in the morning.
A couple of more words. We have a comment. We don't have enough time for a true dialogue. This is true, because a dialogue takes 2.5 days. Then we have a true dialogue to exchange ideas. But we believe that this is better than nothing, and that's obvious. All of the issues have been really interesting. All of our conversations boil down to the fact that the nature of a library, the nature of our services to the community keeps changing. We are actually making history as we go. Ms. Tarasova was talking about losing our freedom, but we are gaining the safety and security. The open library concept, something that we used to perceive, it is being under threat. We are talking about the digital divide. We are talking about very huge disparity of access. Not all of the people can gain equal access. If we try to continue this threat, it's going to be there during the second and the third day. We are talking about the change in our profession, and we'll be changing the discussion with our communities. We will attempt to put it in writing tomorrow. Well, we will post it on social networks. Well, some really short comments. Thank you very much, our interpreter. Thank you so much. Спасибо большое. Well, he's a really good expert. Valeriy was working with us during the Suzdal dialogue. He can do the non-stop session. Спасибо вам большое. You can well, thank you our technicians who've been able to handle all of the challenges that we were faced with. We have 2 events at the same time. We've been able to make it. Thank you so much. We love you very much. Thank you. So long.